guys, Brandon, Snyder, team leader of Selling with the Snyder Group in the greater Houston area. Thank you for joining us for the Super Real Estate Bros podcast. I'm here with my good friend, Dave, your mortgage guy, and we are excited to bring you one of many episodes of the Super Real Estate Bros podcast. We want to give a special shout out to Fidelity National Title, our sponsors of this episode. We're so grateful for their continued support and business. So let's get into it, Dave.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing to keep in mind, you can find me on social media, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, at anything that's Dave, your mortgage guy. And Brandon, where can they find you?
We are Selling with the Snyder Group across all platforms. This specific podcast will be available on all podcasting platforms under Super Real Estate Bros.
One thing that I've always wondered, and the thing I probably like to hear most from successful realtors, lenders, anyone in business is, what's your origin? Like, how did it start? And then what was that one moment that really made you say, hey, I can do this? And what caused you to really go all in on real estate? So let's start with your career, where you started, and go from there.
I'm a huge nerd and I love origin stories. If you look at any famous comic book character, they face some sort of trial or adversity, or they unlock their powers by watching someone die. Spoiler alert, nobody died to make me become a real estate agent, but we definitely went through some adversity to get to this place. I had spent a couple of years working for a wholesaler, and during that time I had started working on my real estate license. It was encouraged, my parents were like, hey, we'll pay for it if you want to do it. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. But I wasn't really sold out to the idea of becoming a real estate agent. Right. So I actually sold cars, and I will tell you, I hated it. If my friend Rob watches this or listens to this, he actually is with us at EXP. He's in our collaboration group, but he was my former sales manager at Honda, and I hated selling cars. I always felt like there was a lot of, gray area and a lot of hey, go whack them on the front end and we'll take care of them in the back end. And I just I was never able to do that. I was like, this is not who I am. And it works for people, but I did learn sales skills there. So, when we're talking about origins, a lot of what, when we talk about scripting and when we're talking about calling people and talking to them, a lot of what I'm learning now or relearning and kind of putting and instilling into our team, because we have 2 agents on our team, is a lot of scripts and dialogues that I actually learned selling cars. If you go in the real estate industry and you listen to a lot of top real estate professionals who have really good scripting, a lot of it is just regurgitated from other sales platforms.
Correct.
We start the real estate process for getting licensed. I was a little bit ahead, but I stopped. And then Mary started doing the licensing process. And we both took our test on the same day. We both passed on the same day. This was 3 days before the real estate world came to a screeching halt. A wonderful pandemic called COVID-19 was about to hit. We didn't know the state was.
So you got your license officially in March of 2020?
Yep, March 13th.
Wow, holy shit! And where you guys are at today? We can probably cut that out later. But
oh no, we're not cutting that out.
So literally, you got your license, man. So what you got? Because we're filming this as of October.
It's almost been 3 years. This March will be 3 years officially licensed. I've been told, I don't know, you can fact check this on Twitter later. I've been told that the run that we've had is not normal.
Correct.
Correct. And that's I mean, in all honesty, all glory to God in the business that we have and what we've been able to achieve. I've been told that it is. To give you some numbers, so sold over $36 million in real estate in the past 2.5 years. We've done 20 alone this year, $20 million in volume. We get our license, right?
Yep.
And our boss was requiring of us at the time. So we had to get licensed. There was a bonus structure for me, which I think is really cool, by the way. If you're starting out in the real estate industry and you're an ISA, a bonus structure is really important for you. I was involved in all the home light calls. That was one of our main lead sources. I was calling database and following up with people. Now, mind you, I want to clarify that there was a time in my life in college I worked at Sears Portrait Studio. They wanted me to cold call. When I first started out in real estate, I did the Ben Kinney 1,000 dials challenge in a single day. I hated my life after that. I hate making dials. Absolutely hate cold calling. So I don't know how I got put in an ISA position. But regardless, we got licensed and then the state shut down. And over that weekend, before the state shut down, and we had heard rumblings of COVID. We had decided that we were going to leave. We were going to go do our own thing. We had not wanted to be on the
In
team.
advance of COVID.
Yes.
So in advance of COVID. So before, because a lot of people forget now after the huge run, there was a month there that it was catastrophic. Yep. Like I had talked to my wife and was like, hey, we're not spending any money.
Yep.
Because we may not be making any for a year, 2 years. Obviously that completely was the opposite. So you made the decision to leave this team, do your own thing, you and Mary.
Yep.
And COVID hit.
Yep, COVID hit that next. I sent in my letter of resignation on a Sunday. I gave my 2 weeks. That Monday, we got pulled into our team leader's office, and we both got let go at the same time. It was like, whatever. Like, in hindsight, it was the best thing that could ever happen to me.
100%.
And then, like, 2 days later, COVID officially hit, and the state shut down. And Mary and I had the conversation of, you know, what the hell are we going to do? I'm sure that's a conversation everybody had for about a month. So from about March to June, Mary and I had joined different teams. You know, we're licensed, so like, you know, and I was the marketing guru in the office. Everybody came to me for marketing questions. And so that, like, I knew I was going to land something. I was on a team for 3 months. That was a nightmare. Just, if you're a real estate agent on a team and you don't have a contract in place, you should just go sell real estate by yourself. That's the moral of that story. And then Mary had been on a team. She was an admin working 20 hours a week and getting paid for 40 hours. So she was just like, you know, she was writing my contracts. It was kind of wild. Like, she was my admin while working for someone else. Just, you know, wasn't, they weren't right fits. And then
hang on, because this is the part that I really, really like and I want to dissect. The exact moment. Do you remember the exact moment when you were like, hey, Mary?
100%.
Let's completely go 100%. So I'm always super fascinated because in everyone's career, there's an exact moment where shit had to change and you made a huge jump and bet on yourself. And so tell me that exact moment.
So it's a span of about 2 weeks.
Okay.
So I got the front desk girl, this is a total God thing. The front desk girl gave out 3 leads in a day. One of them went to Mary. One of them went to another agent in the office, and the third one went to me. The only one to pan out of the 3 was me. It was a buy-sell combo. They were selling Katie 77084, like hot neighborhood, like stupid hot neighborhood. We looked at a house in Rose Sharon. I think they only looked at like 2-3 houses. They went to an open house. They wanted to write the offer. And there was like, the lady, the listing agent was like, yeah, they're like, we have a couple offers coming. And I was like, all right, cool. So I called my team leader at the time, right? The guy I was in business with. And he didn't have time to write an offer because I had never written an offer before. So Mary helped me write the offer. And I told her, I said, why am I giving someone 50% of my business that I'm creating?
100%.
And that was the moment. That was the moment that we knew. I said, you can write a contract with your eyes closed. I said, I can't. I'm the most disorganized person you'll ever meet. But I can tell you how people think because I'm emotionally attached to people, so I know how people think. I said, let's just do this.
Are you hinting that maybe we should be doing this podcast with Mary and me? So dude, Brandon may not be on all of the episodes. I'm warning everybody right now.
100%. She is. I can't do this without her. She is the alpha to my omega. I mean, that is. She's my life partner, and you know, there was a point where we just sat there and we're like, okay. At the time, we were living with my parents. In a little, 12 by 10 upstairs. Our 3 dogs were crammed in a room together. I said, what do we have to lose? Either the world's going to kill itself, which is kind of what it looked like during that
100%.
time.
You had nothing to lose.
Oh, we had nothing to lose. I mean, we had very minimal debt. And we just went for it. And here's what's crazy. That first open house for that listing that I worked, my very first open house, I went up to, who are now our friends and neighbors, if they listen to this, you guys are a huge testament. I walk up to them, I hand them a flyer like this, and I go, I'm going to let you do your thing. If you'd like, I can send the property website that I made for this house to your agent. I said, okay, no worries, we're not working with an agent. And the rest is history. They literally live 5 doors down from us. We've broke bread with them multiple times. We party together, you know, in the cul-de-sac or the neighborhood. And you know, so when we say we live off our relationships, we 100% live off our relationships. So,
oh, you got best friends that are clients.
Oh yeah.
Like I've been to your events, right? And it's hilarious. Like, and I say this with the utmost respect. It looks like a group of 10 people hanging out.
Right.
And it does look like a customer appreciation part. You know, we've all seen like, thanks so much for coming out and blah, blah, blah. And yours are more or less like hugs, high fives, drinking beer, eating hot dogs and hanging out. You guys do an amazing job with that.
Humble brag. Our clients get to throw out first pitches at baseball games.
There you go. There you go. No, this is awesome. I've been actually writing notes because we've got some legit topics that I want us to save for future ones, because I think the one thing that going into this podcast that I really hope for is, one, it's good information that we're going to give. But I think there's agents out there who are listening to this and thinking in the first 2 years, you're for sure not going to have a team. In the first 2 years, for sure you're not going to do that amount of production. And I think it's important to not only show that it can be, go over the pitfalls, go over the plans, the things that you learned. And you have a leg up because you were on teams before starting your own. And I think that's an extremely valuable lesson, is you realize what other teams do well while you're working with them and things that they don't do well, and how when you start your own team, there's nuggets that you're taking from that, right?
100%. I think a lot of agents are going to get into this game right now, and they're going to be like, oh crap, what do I do?
Correct.
There is the only difference between now and then is your perspective. I promise you that it was going to be rough for us regardless if we started in COVID or not in COVID. But the biggest thing is we dug in, we said, we're going to do this, we committed to this, and we saw it all the way through. You know, right now, I have a listing going live today. We have like 5 listings going live this month. There is no shortage of business out there for you to go get, but you have to. And if you follow us on socials, you'll see, like, I made a reel the other day about it. Like, this is what I do to restart my business. I'd be making video content. I'd get intentional. I would start, you know, I have this theory, and I tell it to our agents that join our team, that join our collaboration group at EXP. I say, right now, you need to go find your 5 generals. That I use this extreme case, if a gun was put to their head tomorrow, they would refer you a real estate deal. Those are the people that you need to go spend the most time with over the next 3 months. Go take them out to lunch, coffee, and don't talk about real estate. What do you mean don't talk about real estate? Don't talk about real estate. I will die on this hill, but I promise you, they're gonna know. If you are the person that is meant to sell real estate, they're gonna be like, hey, how's the real estate thing going? Because they know, because they care about you.
Well, correct. Not only that, once you build that relationship, it's the first thing that pops in their head.
Right.
So, as like with anybody with referrals, right? Like, you'll say, hey man, do you know a plumber? Yeah, but okay, this and that. The people who love their plumber are like, dude, you gotta call my person. Oh my God, they're awesome. They do an amazing job. I've used them for 10 years.
Yep.
And that is the referral that you want. The one that blows them away, as if the person referring it is not even giving you a choice. Like, no, hey man, I'm telling you, you need to call my guy. You need to call my girl. They absolutely blow away. So when you're building the relationship, you need to go into it. And I'm working on this, and it bothers me when you see people who don't. Organically giving a shit about the other person when you're building relationships. Meaning, sit down and talk about what they're dealing with for an hour. Like, I sat down with a buddy of mine. We talked about a ton of stuff. None of it was related to mortgages, right? And that wasn't even my goal going into it. It's keeping in contact and building relationships, showing you care. And if there's opportunity for referrals, you're going to get it. At a minimum, you're putting out good energy. Building relationships, the shit's gonna work itself out.
Yeah.
You go in going, okay, I need to meet with 10 people who know X amount to be able to get, man, you start looking at what you want into those meetings, that shit comes off so blatantly obvious.
Yeah, it's 100%.
To everybody involved.
100%. Like, if you're relational instead of transactional, you're gonna do in any amount of business. And it doesn't even have to be in sales, right? Like, if you run a restaurant and you just love on people, like, people will come to your restaurant because of the hospitality. There's a place in Katy we love. It's called That's My Dog. If you haven't been there, you need to check it out. They also own another place called Auntie Bill's Cafe. It's soul food. And when you walk in, they're like, hey family, how you doing? They talk to you, they love on you, they make you feel right. I spent $11 on a hot dog and I felt like I was the second coming for like 10 minutes. Like, that is the type of business everyone should be running, and not everyone's going to do that. So if you're a new agent and you're trying to figure out exactly what you need to be doing to go sell, you know, we're going to sell 70 homes this year. If you need to go sell 70 homes, like, I promise you, love on your people no matter what. You know, and sometimes it just doesn't work out. Like, you can love on people. I'll give you a perfect example, and I won't go into too much of the details because there's an active issue going on, but we sold someone a house last year and we loved on them. I brought them a pie in November, hand delivered them a pie, and another agent was trying to sell their house during that time. Didn't have a sign on the yard.
And to jump in with not knowing the story, I'm going to assume it may be a story that I know some of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's more to it, but I only bring it up because you're going to get hurt. There are going to be people that will not do business with you again, no matter how nice to them, I mean, you could literally like cry with them and like be in their living room and like just love on them, and they may not use you again.
Well, and I'm going to raise my hand because to jump in here, that particular story, I can say from being in the business for over 20 years and handling the mortgage in that scenario, nobody else, in theory, the vast majority of realtors in the business would not have gotten them in a home, which I think was what makes that story harder to probably deal with. So, man, that's huge. We're going to completely hold on to the blow up part past that.
Sure, absolutely.
And dissect it because that's a whole nother topic. I'll jump in and give you my origins and how I got into it.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to hear, Dave, you're Mo Frackin' mortgage guy. Like you and I have been friends for a couple years now, and I was referred to you by another agent because another mortgage lender dropped the ball infinitely. I mean, literally just always dropped the ball. And it was young in our career, so we were like, hey, like, we need someone we can trust. And I felt like we vibed really well. So tell us your story.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm old. Like in this business, I'm like a cockroach. I've been around so long. But my career started when I was in college, getting my degree from Penn State. I went and took real estate classes in the morning. So I wanted to be a realtor. Like that's truly what I wanted to do. I graduated. And one of the companies I interviewed with was with a mortgage company. So I was like, man, that's super close to real estate. Right. Like that's about as close I can get. I'll take it. Went to work for at that time what's called a subprime company as a sales rep. Moved from Philly to here. And when the market crashed, so the '08 crash, which was terrible. I mean, you go from making X amount of money to making maybe a 10th, right? No job possibilities. Went through a divorce. So just an ugly period. And then went into this side of it, which is really originating loans, working with clients, and just put my head down and...
Wait, are you saying that you're responsible because you worked at a subprime? So for those of you who are probably my age, you have no idea what the hell a subprime mortgage is. Are you saying you're responsible for the crash of 2008? Like you specifically working at a subprime company?
No, I was not. I was not responsible for.
If you ever watched The Big Short, the guy with his sleeves rolled up and the short hair that kind of looks like Dave. Yeah, like that was Dave.
No, that wasn't me. And Brandon's trying to make me look bad. So. No, the whole issue with subprime that really caused it is they made these mortgage products and then went to market to sell them as if they weren't risky. And so you had people on very, very loose underwriting guidelines. You had stated income, you had adjustable rate mortgages, so the payment could have been anything.
Yeah.
And Wall Street and the mortgage companies were packaging these as super safe.
Yeah,
selling them, and that's where the whole thing fell apart. Is that Wall Street allowed this to happen, and then when they started to default and became an issue, you know, it was an ugly period, and I think it was, and that's a blessing where now in what we're in, those loans aren't coming back, that market's not coming back, which is important. I mean, you need to be in a position where those who should buy a home can buy a home, not anybody buying a home.
Real quick, just for layman's terms, because I know there's people out there that probably don't understand what subprime and class. So if I was going to describe what happened in 2008, I would describe it like this, and correct me if I'm wrong. A bunch of people had shirts that they were selling on Facebook Marketplace, new condition. But in fact, once they received them, once they shipped them to whoever was buying them, they had like 85 holes in them. And it was not as described. And so a lot of people spent a lot of money, and then they actually borrowed the money to buy these shirts, and then they realized that the shirts weren't as advertised, and so they didn't pay for the shirts.
From a Wall Street standpoint, I would say that's probably 100% correct. and then additional layers there is that Wall Street then tried to have somebody else buy your holy shirt as it's still being beautiful. So it's like, hey, I know you didn't like it. You know, we're gonna repackage and then they would take sometimes some of these things is they would take one sleeve off of your shirt, one sleeve of mine, and package that.
It's like the losing Super Bowl teams like t-shirts that go to a third world country.
Correct. Congratulations to whatever team for winning, even though they lost. So it was, and it was lending that shouldn't have, no money down, horrible credit. It was a bad situation, and that's why when they went away, you had probably a 2-year period where the real estate industry just was dead, for lack of a better word, because you also, not only did you have those people getting foreclosed on and getting ugly, none of those people who would have qualified for those loans were home buyers in that 2-year period after.
Right.
So you woke up literally when this crashed. I'd like to say you woke up and probably half of the possible buyers and possible mortgages were gone, if not more. And that's what caused a lot of that. So when
you moved here, so you like,
well, I was in Houston the whole time. So I got hired, graduating, and I lived in Philly. Got hired, went to work for a company to train, and then I became a sales rep in Houston. So I got to see Houston, blow up to where it is. And so after it crashes, I was just like, hey, like 100% of everybody in this business got out, except for like 3 people I can think of who were still my friends. And I was like, hey, I really like what I was doing. I loved real estate. I love mortgages. So I'm going to learn and grow this side of it. And then I've been on this side the entire time, kind of going back to your blow up story of where your guy, which has been your entire career, is blowing up. But for me, probably in 16, I had plateaued a couple years straight, right? And so I'd done it for quite some time, and man, for whatever reason, I was plateauing. So for those of you at home, whatever I was doing was keeping me from growing my business, right? Like I may think I'm doing the right thing. I may think I'm hardworking or I know my stuff. The truth of the matter is, in any sales position, if you're plateauing that often,
right,
there's some changes you need to make. So I knew at that point I was going to really address everything I needed to do and blow up my business on a whole bunch of things. And we'll talk about that in another podcast. And that's what allowed me to get to where I'm at today. But I love what I do. I think the one thing that's so great about mortgages and real estate is that each deal is different.
right.
So the structuring of each deal is different. So your skill set of keeping deals together, super valuable, especially in the market we're in right now in 2022. There's agents and loan officers who came in during the easy years. They don't know how to structure a difficult file. They don't know how to negotiate aggressively. They don't know how to any of that stuff, right?
I want to challenge that thought process real quick. You said it, and I really thought about it. There was nothing easy about the past 2 years. And if you're watching this and you're like I want to get into real estate, this might actually be easier because you can be yourself and build a brand. And you're not an order taker anymore. I look at it like this. I really think that we went from order takers to who's going to get the job done the best way, the most efficient way, and probably we're going to have to get a little creative, right? We're getting creative now, but it wasn't easy. It was fun. It was miserable. It was fun. I want to challenge that way of thinking. I hear it a lot in this industry. I hear, the past 2 years are so easy for agents. It was not easy. I had a file that took 7 offers to get accepted. We had to get creative to get some other deals accepted immediately. We've done it. But for me, I think that moving forward, this is going to be the easy part.
Yeah, you're right. Let me correct and say this. When I say easy, I don't mean it was nonstop. I tell people, for me, it was like running on a treadmill for 2 years straight. What I'm saying is the agents who came into the business, there was enough transactions that you could have made money without having these skill sets that are core values of successful people in our business.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is a disadvantage to any people who came in during that period. No, I agree. In fact, if you're a realtor listening to us right now and starting your business, I would say right now is a better time to start your career than at any point in the last 2.5 years, because you're going to learn those skills quicker, which is going to help you be successful. Because I've talked to people who are like, oh, I missed the boat. I'm like, because they started later, right? And I'm like, man, I don't think you missed the boat. I think if you really go and double down, you're going to be way more successful than most people who started and didn't learn those skill sets. We're not saying everybody who started in that 2-year period is like, just it's a free ride. That's not the case.
Right.
There are skills that you need to have that separate you from your competition. You're going to learn them in a normal market or a tougher market.
Right, 100%.
Than you would in that. Like if you were selling a home in the last 2 years, you're going to get X amount of offers. How do you sell that home when it sits on the market for 45 days?
Good luck and Godspeed. No, we'll talk about that later. I think there's some really creative ways we can get homes sold. $52,000 in solar panels might be a challenge, but but okay, let's jump back into this because we only have a little bit of time left on this podcast. I want to talk about so you came here, you plateaued in your business. Give me like a 30-second blurb. What is Dave your mortgage guy now? What was the thing that got you through the plateau? What is that, that adversity, that challenge that you faced? Just tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to tell you the exact moment I thought I was dying. This is a true story. I felt like I was dying inside because the amount of money I was making was not nearly enough for what I wanted to accomplish in life. And I had plateaued. So that's a couple years of realizing that. I'm married, 2 kids. My wife works at home, or stays at home and with the kids and does a whole bunch of activities.
She works at home. It's okay.
And investments and all of that. But I was the sole breadwinner in that example. I got very frustrated because I saw other people closing nationally, not in Houston. They were closing more than me. And I was like, man, they're not smarter than me. They're not working harder than me. So I humbled myself to say, look, whatever it is you think you're doing well, assume nothing and blow up everything. And I'll dig into this. I'm talking about not even just sales tactics or mortgage stuff. I'm talking about a lot of things you're doing in your life. So I then humbled myself to say, I will blow up everything to get to where I want to go and address personal, diet, mental health, sales, hiring, growing my team. I mean, like a ton of shit. Because I hit a point where I was like, this isn't working. I will do whatever it takes. I can tell you the exact moment where it really was hitting me is I would talk to my good buddy Nick, and I was at the gym. Before I walked in, I remember I posted photos. It's 24-hour fitness in Katy. There was a corner, and I talked outside with him, walking around in a circle for 30 minutes before I went into the gym with an absurd amount of frustration and just venting and just realizing I need to blow my shit up. And people told me in advance of this, hey man, you're doing fine. Just keep doing what you're doing. And while they meant it in the nicest way possible, it was the worst life advice I could have gotten because keep doing what you're doing literally plateaued me for 3 straight years.
Yeah.
So when you hear that, they don't mean it in a mean way. Just know that you need to attach yourself to people with a different thought process because, and this was something that was big for me, where I wanted to go, I had not seen anybody do it the way and the level I wanted to get to. So I was going into uncharted territory. Sometimes with mentors, you can look and say, hey, that person closes $100 million in real estate and has a team of 10. I want to be just like Bob, just like Karen. So I'm going to follow that model. Right. There's a lot of examples. You may not have a model for what you want. You need to make that model.
Yeah. Well, we have just a few seconds left. I want to say something real quick that I think is hyper important out of everything that was just talked about. You have to be willing to sacrifice everything to achieve everything. I think that if there's two things we can pick out of both of our origin stories, is that the breakthrough happens is that when you're desperate and there is no other way out, you break through and you find the way out because there is no other option. The only option you have is to succeed, because failure is not an option. We owe it to our families, you know, to our spouses, to our kids, you know, in your case, to break through, because it's what's expected of us, because we were designed to be great. So that's gonna wrap us up for today. Man, thank you so much for joining me in this venture. I think it's gonna be really fun as we continue to talk about real estate, our lives. We're gonna talk about things not related to real estate. Just have fun with it. You can find this podcast anywhere where podcasts are located. We'll get it distributed to the right channels. Yep. We look forward to talking to you soon. Remember, if you are looking for a home in the greater Houston area, looking for a mortgage, DaveYourMortgageGuy.com, sellingwiththesnyders.com. We'd love to talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.